It is necessary that early on in your projects, you figure out where your pitfalls are going to be. The sooner you can figure those out, the sooner you can try and alleviate that problem, which will inevitably befall you despite how much you probably try and brunt against it. I'm talking about the overall big concept problem that your project is going to have. The one that feels like it's going to be unavoidable, and it's going to be the one that's going to be very defining. When people talk about your work and they level a critique against it, this is going to be the first thing that comes to their mind. Identifying that early can help to mitigate it, or if you're very skilled, eliminating it altogether. And for me, I've figured that out now. At least I think I do. I think by the time I'm done with this project, my guess is that people will say something to the effect of my reach was outdid my grasp, right? Or I guess the expression about how sort of your ambition outdid your skill. You tried to do something really, really ambitious, you just couldn't quite pull it off. You see this a lot with film and obviously with books as well, where they have these sort of high concepts of these big ideas, and at times the film does not live up to it. It's a great idea, it's a great concept, but it just does not reach it. For me, that is what I fear about this project, and I fear that this will become probably the major criticism of what I'm about to do. For the most part, it's because what I'm doing right now feels very ambitious. The project feels relatively small in terms of the word count and how long the project's going to be, and yet what I'm trying to do within that and the things I'm trying to show within this work, it feels like I will not be able to sufficiently do it, that what I've conceptualized as far as the work will just not live up to it in reality. It's a very common critique, and I am hoping that realizing this early, that somehow confronting this, what seems like an inevitability very early on in this process, should help to mitigate it. This should help to potentially stall out the criticism that comes my way. Maybe I can get this work to the point where this criticism is not leveled. And yet, if I don't address it, I am quite certain this will be what people will end up saying about my work, or at least, as far as this project is concerned. It feels weird to talk about this in a very vague sense, and I think once I actually kind of reveal more about what this project's going to be, probably here in the next few months, it'll make more sense. But this project, needless to say, is going to be about a small town, the individuals in a small town affected by a tragedy, and the interlocking and interweaving lives of those affected by it, and how there's this sort of ripple effect where something happens to one character, it affects all. And so it's a series of interconnected stories that will basically play into a much larger narrative when you read the stories in kind of the full spectrum. To even say that out loud, I'm already thinking this is going to be this is already going to be part of my most ambitious work, which is good. You should always be trying to sort of push yourself a little bit further, always trying to make your next work better than the previous one. So this is awesome. It's a great idea, but the inevitable challenge is going to be that criticism, the idea of my reach exceeding my grasp. And if I can do it correctly, if I can pull this off properly, I have nothing to worry about. I'll have nothing to worry about, and we'll be fine. The reality, unfortunately, is that to pull this off, it's going to be difficult. It's going to be very, very, very difficult to pull this off with successfully. But going in now, knowing that, I can kind of brace for it. I can take my time, I'm hoping, when I do these works to really reassess, okay, what are you trying to say? What's this piece trying to say? What is each individual story? What's each individual piece trying to say? And how is it being done? And then with that, if I'm trying to interconnect these tales, how am I doing that? How am I interconnecting them well? How am I showing these different themes or ideas that I'd like to sort of explore with my characters? In what way am I doing it? How can I do it effectively or more effectively? Keeping in mind the criticism that can come your way, it should be able to help you address ahead of time these issues. A lot of people in the business realm use a term called a pre-mortem, which is basically where you start off a business adventure with the idea that your business has failed. So you start off with the idea that, all right, your business failed. Why? And you start listing out the most common reasons why your business may have failed. Lack of knowledge about your market, lack of resources early on, not having a product that quite delivers to the needs of your consumers, whatever it might be. Then you sort of kind of work backwards to address that problem. It's kind of the same thing with what I'm doing here, where I'm already trying to anticipate what the criticism will be of the work and trying to make my work and craft my stories in a way that perhaps can avoid that level of criticism. I don't know if I'm at the skill level yet where I can completely diminish that, where I can get a work that's so good that people will not say, hey, it was really ambitious, but you couldn't quite. There are certain parts where you couldn't quite pull that off. I don't know if I'm at the skill level yet where I can do that. It's an honest assessment. I don't know, but I think I can minimize it. I think I can diminish it quite a bit and deliver a really, really, really good collection of stories here, just by going in with that foreknowledge. So we'll see. We'll see what happens, but it's become more apparent, I think, today, maybe over the past few days. Maybe it's been festering. It just happened to come out today. But it started to occur to me that this is probably going to be the big criticism, the big challenge ahead of me. Getting a world that can deliver on these things, getting a story that can basically deliver on the ideas of interconnected lives and how individuals deal with a certain tragedy and how they all basically kind of come together in a sense. It's difficult. It's been done before. There have been books that have shown this sort of thing before, but it's not an easy thing at all to do. And so hoping that by going in with this sort of pre-knowledge, I can tackle the problem ahead of time. We'll see. We'll see what happens. For now, it's about taking this at least one session at a time. And today was a strong session. Today was a very, very good session. I got about a page written, which is awesome. And as I get into January, not quite July yet. As I get into January, we're going to see if we can get this thing wrapped up relatively early on and just move on to the next one. Going through and getting these things done as quickly as possible, I think early on will give me enough momentum that later on, perhaps into late next year, maybe even all the way through the following year, through 2024, I'll be able to have a strong collection of works that is done on a relatively fast time frame. To get something done in about 2 years, which is what I've given this project, about 2 years, it'll be a challenge, but I think it can be done quite well. And so if I can start tackling these things very quickly early on, the momentum I'm hoping will just carry over into the rest of the project. That's how I tackle everything. Get the momentum under your feet first, and then just kind of coast for a bit.